We begin our report with 5 candidates and a frontrunner, all in Florida, just not all on the same stage. In about 2 hours, these Republican presidential hopefuls will debate in Miami. It's the third debate this primary season. The stage has shrunk some since last time. Some candidates failed to qualify. Others dropped out of the race altogether. Former President Donald Trump is once again skipping the event. He's holding his own in Florida, just a few miles away. It's the Democrats, though, who grabbed the spotlight after yesterday's elections. The party swept control of both state legislative bodies in Virginia, delivering a shock to the state's Republican governor, who had hoped they'd both go his way. And in Ohio, it was a resounding yes for making abortion a constitutional right. CBS News national correspondent Jericka Duncan is in Columbus with more election results.
Abortion rights supporters are still celebrating after voters passed a state constitutional amendment enshrining a woman's right to an abortion in Ohio, setting up a key issue ahead of the 2024 presidential election.
The voters said, look, the government should not be telling a woman what to do with her body.
We have always known that this was a national campaign because what happens in Ohio was going to immediately become the flashpoint for way people were talking about issues in other states.
In Kentucky, where Republicans control the state legislature, incumbent Democratic Governor Andy Beshear defeated Republican Attorney General Daniel Cameron.
Well, that didn't turn out exactly how I wanted it to.
Cameron said he would amend the state's total abortion ban if elected to allow for exceptions in cases of rape or incest, but, quote, only if the court made us change the law. In Virginia, Democrats who campaigned on abortion rights took control of the state legislature there. Today, the state's Republican governor, Glenn Youngkin, spoke on the issue.
This is a very difficult topic across Virginia and across the nation.
Over 20 states either ban or restrict abortion access. But since 2022, abortion rights supporters have prevailed in 7 out of 7 states where the issue has been on the ballot, including in Ohio last night.
I think our country is just getting harder and more selfish, and the unborn child is the one that's paying the price.
National Right to Life President Carol Tobias says they will continue to fight.
There are 11 states right now, as you know, that are considering abortion on the ballot next year. What is your strategy?
We have to find different and better ways to reach out and get people to understand that killing the unborn child is not going to solve problems.
And abortion opponents say a key part of that strategy is to raise more money. They say they were outspent in Ohio and in other places where they lost. John?
Jericka Duncan in Columbus, Ohio. Thank you, Jericka. It's time to turn now to senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe, who's following the former president, and chief election and campaign correspondent Robert Costa in Miami. Bob, I'll start with you. What are the variety of reactions to the election yesterday among Republicans?
There's a real sense of alarm, John, among many Republicans across the country, including some of my top sources who are in the 2024 presidential race, who are on Capitol Hill. They're looking at this and wondering, could abortion rights and the Republican push to restrict them vex Republicans once again next year, just like they did in 2022 and again in these off-year elections in 2023. And there's talk now about how do you refocus the Republican message around the economy, around other issues where you're not drawing out new voters into the Democratic coalition.
What are you hearing, Bob, about Glenn Youngkin's political fortunes? He was, as you reported, once thought of as a kind of maybe even presidential candidate this cycle. How did he come out of all of this?
As you saw from his news conference today with reporters, Governor Youngkin is trying to say Virginia Republicans did their best, but that talk of a 2024 late entry presidential run by Governor Youngkin has all but ended. Sure, there might be some billionaires like Thomas Petterfy who say Youngkin should still consider it, especially if former President Donald Trump is convicted early next year in a criminal trial. At the same time, as I've reported for CBS News for months, what Youngkin was thinking about, at least his camp, his group of allies were thinking about, was that if he did well in Virginia, if Republicans won the state Senate and won the House of Delegates, that could provide him with momentum to seriously consider a late entry. But at this point, the ballot deadlines are mostly in December. It doesn't look like he's getting in at all. if there's any kind of play by Youngkin or someone else, it would likely be at the convention next year. And that's, as you know, as a student of history and someone who's written a lot about campaigns past, that's not an easy thing to do or to plan.
Ed, let's look at the Democrats now. What are they taking away from the election results on Tuesday? And let me add a second question. Are they saying that these are specific things that happen in specific races, or are there things they can identify that they can take into next year?
Well, if there's any way to get abortion access on the ballot in big states next year, Democrats are now really going to explore options, because by winning that issue in Ohio, by having it contribute to its hold on the legislature in Virginia, by watching Andy Beshear, who is personally against abortion but supportive of the exceptions for women and for restricting it in some ways, still being able to push back on his Republican opponent, Daniel Cameron, and say the GOP position is too extreme and cause them to scramble in that state. It's all evidence that that issue is galvanizing, helps mobilize, and get people out to the polls. But what we didn't see in Jericka's piece that the vice president said today was quite adroit. She said, look, that issue resonates. We know, the president and I, we still have work to do on our reelection. In essence, saying that's a popular issue. We have some work to do in order to become popular enough again to win in those big states and hold on to the White House.
And Ed, you are at a Trump rally, as everybody can hear from behind you. There is this debate tonight. There's an effort to winnow it down to be a Trump alternative. What are the odds in terms of people you're talking to about anything like that possibly happening, given the commanding lead in the polls from the former president?
What was Donald Trump?
Oh, there's no disputing that he remains far and away the leader of this ongoing contest, and by so many double digits that it would be quite something to see somebody be able to catch him now, especially since we're nearing the holidays, when by now the thought was somebody might be breaking through. That said, the Trump operation keeps close eyes on Florida Governor DeSantis, Ambassador Nikki Haley, Senator Tim Scott, knowing that all of them remain competitive in Iowa, where they understand themselves to be weaker, perhaps, than they will be in later states. They know, for example, if Governor Ambassador Haley were to break through in Iowa with a strong second-place finish, she might get vaulted into New Hampshire, where independents can participate and might like the idea of her being the Republican nominee instead. And then it all goes down to South Carolina, where, of course, she once served as governor. So they're keeping an eye on her. They're always concerned and eager to belittle the Florida governor. They were doing it again to us a little while ago, critiquing some of his pre-debate statements, and once again questioning whether or not he really needs that Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds endorsement, whether it'll do anything to help. So even if they are ahead, they're ruthless, and they understand the more they can defeat these guys, the stronger they'll be going forward as they expect to win the nomination again.
And Bob, finally back to you. You were at the debate tonight. Give us your sense of the stakes and what we should be paying attention to.
To be brief, John, this is a desperate moment for many Republicans on stage. If you don't start to break through now, just weeks before Thanksgiving, when are you going to break through? And this is not my refrain. This is the refrain of so many donors, top Republican officials around the country. They're looking at the polling. They're talking to voters in their own states, and they see former President Trump is the presumptive Republican nominee at this point, even as he faces 5 looming trials, some of them ongoing as well. If you can't come up with a message that somehow really establishes you as the most viable, credible Trump alternative at this point, when do you do it? I mean, there's some allies of Governor DeSantis and Ambassador Haley and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie who say this could break late, but you're dealing with a celebrity former incumbent president running for a second term. It's an unprecedented dynamic that's very difficult to navigate, but they're going to try to do that tonight. Look for a lot of them tonight to punch up and punch down. I expect an energetic night because of the high stakes.
Ed O'Keefe and Robert Costa, a very busy couple of days on the campaign trail. We're grateful to both of you. Thank you.